Hello friends, today we are continuing with our chapter number 12 friction. In our previous class we learned about what is the friction, causes and effects of the friction, types of the friction. Now in today's class we will learn how we increase and reduce the friction, advantages and the disadvantages of the friction. So one by one we will see, first we will see the methods of increasing the friction. Sometimes it is beneficial to increase the friction, but sometimes it's not beneficial. Sometimes we don't want a friction, but sometimes it is necessary to the friction is there. If you observe that the sole of your shoes are grooved, okay. So why we always refer the shoes whose soles are grooved? We not refer the shoes or the sandals; those are flat because there increases the friction. Okay, means the chances of the friction is more when the sole of your shoes are grooved. See here, the sole of shoes have spikes on them, right? Which increases the friction and provide a better grip between the surface and at the shoes, and we can easily walk, move, or run on that the surface with the help of these shoes. Those who have the spikes or they have a groove. But what happened with that the flatter shoes or the flat sandals? Because why we not refer this flat sandals because or the flat shoes because there is a less chances of that the friction. Okay, means we can easily slip, we can easily fall down on that the surface, and there is a no better grip between that the surface and the this surface because this is the smooth surface, and we already learn about that the smooth surface occur a less friction, right? So it is not possible to move with such type of the shoes. So always the sole of your shoes are grooved for the better grip and to easily walk on that the surface, right? Another method is you observe that the brakes pads are used in the brake systems of automobiles and the cycles. Whenever you apply a brake, your vehicle stops immediately. Means what they do they oppose the motion. Okay, why? Who oppose the motion? The friction oppose the motion, right? Means when you apply the brake, your vehicle stops instantly. Means they opposes the motion and the friction comes there, right? So here also, to increase the friction, the brake can work in an effective way with the help of this brake pads. So whenever you are driving your vehicle, okay, so these brake pads are not directly touch with that the wheels, right? But as soon as when you apply the brake, the pads, when you apply the brake, these brake pads arrest the rim of the wheels, and it stops the motion of the wheel, and simultaneously it stops the motion of your vehicle. Okay, once it increase the friction there, once they come in a contact with that the rim of the wheel, okay, they stop its motion, and they increase the friction. So with the help of that, we can stop our vehicle. So these brake pads are used to increase the friction in that the bicycles or in the vehicle. So this is the use of this brake pads in the brake system of automobiles or in the bicycles. So there are the lot of the methods to increase the friction. Similarly, there are some methods to reduce the friction. Sometimes we not require a friction, okay, for the effectively work of some systems, but sometimes we require a friction. You know that the hinges of the doors make such type of sounds when the friction is more there, okay, and they are not able to open it easily and to close it easily, right? So at that time what we apply some oil or some grease in between that the hinges so that the door can easily open and easily close. Okay, so here is a question is that why oil and grease are applied on moving part of a machine? So the answer is very easy, that to reduce the friction. In a many machines, okay, in industries there are a lot of machines work continuously, and what happens, the machinery parts are made up of the metals, and when they rub continuously on each other, then there is a friction, and when there is a friction, then it becomes hard, they not work smoothly. So at that time time we require to apply the oil and the grease in between the moving part of that the machine. So in these systems, sometimes they use one type of a substance called the lubricants. Okay, so the lubricant is a substance that help to reduce the friction between the moving parts of that the machines. Okay, or the moving part of that the moving part of that the machines. So the grease or oil is applied between the moving parts of machine. It forms a thin layer between these two parts of the machines, and they not directly rub with each other. They are not directly contact with each other, and there is a less chances of harm of the parts of that the machine when you apply the uh, oil or a grease in between the parts of that the moving parts of machines. Okay, so it is the way to reduce the friction when you apply the oil, or when you use the lubricants, or when we apply the grease in between the parts of that the machines. Okay, similarly, when you are playing a carom board, you always used to sprinkle some powder on that the carom board, right? When if you want to win the game, at that time you sprinkle a powder on that the carom board. So why you sprinkle that the carom board? The answer is very easy again, to reduce the friction. When there is a less friction, then the striker moves easily from that the carom board. Okay, when powder is sprinkled on the carom board, it just smooths the surface and the striker move smoothly to reduce the friction. Means if there is a less friction, if the surface is the smooth, then the object moves very smoothly, very easily from the surface. So this is also the one method to reduce the friction. There are a lot of methods to reduce the friction. Okay, on the slippery surface also we fall down easily because the surface is a smooth. On an oily surface also we slip easily because there is a less friction. So these are the some methods to reduce that the friction. Okay, similarly the ball bearings are also used for rolling two surfaces over each other. The ball bearings are used in the machines also, or in the wheels also, for the rolling of the two surfaces over each other. They can easily move. Means the two surfaces of that the machine, they are not rubbed directly with each other, and hence we prevent that the rubbing of that the surfaces from each other. Similarly, wheels are used for moving heavy suitcases and bags. Wheels offers the less frictions and hence make it easier to move heavy items. Right? We used bags or a substances, heavy substances which have the wheels under it. Okay, because the wheels rolls on that the surface and they provide a less frictions, and we not occur or we not offer a heavy loads. Okay, so for that the heavy suitcases or a heavy cupboards have the wheels under it because they provide a less friction. So this is the one reason also, this is the one method also to reduce that the friction. So this is all about that the how we increase the friction and how we reduce the friction. Now the advantages of friction. What are the advantages of friction? See, we observe that a ball is roll on a ground, right? You walk, you move, you run on a ground, you apply brakes to your bicycle also. All these things happen. But think that if there is no friction, then what happens? The ball is not able to move on a ground. It is not able to roll on a ground. Right, it roll continuously if there is no friction. You walk on a road, if there is no friction, you are not able to walk properly. You fall down, you slip down continuously on a road. You apply brakes to your bicycle, if there is no friction, then you are not able to stop the motion of your bicycle. So if the friction is not there, then we will not stop the motion of the ball, our motion, the motion of the vehicles also. So if friction did not exist, there would be no grip between the surfaces, and we are not able to stop our motion. Okay, so similarly we know that when the teacher write on that the blackboard or on the whiteboard, why they able to write? Because of that the friction. You also write some work, you write your homework. Okay, you write your pencil work, you write your pen work on that the page. Why it is possible? Because of that the friction, you able to write on the page with the help of the pencil or with the help of the pen, with the help of only the friction. If there is a no friction, then your pen will slip, your pencil will slip, and you are not able to write on that the page. Similarly, for fixing the nail onto a wall, onto a door, the friction is necessary. If there is a no friction, the things slip down, fall down. You are not able to fix it properly. Okay, similarly, the matchstick burns when you rub on that the matchbox. Why it burns? Because there is a friction between the two surfaces. Two surface means the matchstick and the matchbox. When you rub this the matchstick on that the matchbox, the matchstick burns with the help of that the friction. Okay, these are all about that the advantages of the friction. Now, what about the disadvantages of the friction? We know that what are the disadvantages. The disadvantages is that friction causes wear and tear of surfaces and materials. Wear and tear of your shoes also. When you continuously use your shoes, your sandals for a long period of time, then what happened after a particular interval of time? The sole of your shoes or sandals tear out. Okay. So, for example, the tires of buses, the tire of cars, trucks also, they also wear out because of that the friction, because we know that whatever the object moving on that the surface, the friction is continuously there. Okay, and if there is a friction, then the wear out of that the tires, the sole of your shoes are happen there. Okay, after a particular interval of time, we change the wheels of your a vehicle. Okay, we change the or we replace that the part of that the machines also. We can replace the shoes also, we can replace our sandals also, we repair a road also. You know that there are the so much we can say that your road. Okay, when we are move on that the road are not too much smooth, they also the rough. Okay, why? Because of there are the so many big holes in between the road. Because of that the continuous friction between that the tires of the vehicles and the road, they harm that the road also, and they harm the tires of the vehicles also. Means there is a wear and tear of tires. So this is the disadvantages of the friction. If the friction is a continuous, then they damage the wheels also of your vehicle. Similarly, sole of shoes wear out due to the friction, right? Moving parts of machines such as the screws and ball bearings need to be replaced, as they too wear out due to friction. When they are continuously in a motion, when they, when they are continuously in a use, then of course there is a friction, and the friction causes the wear and tear of that the particular object. So after a particular time, we replaced it. Similarly, in a winter season, we always used to rub your hands together. Okay, palm of your hands rub to each other. So with the help of that, what happened? The heat is generated, the heat is produced in between your hands. Okay, means it create a heat, it create a energy with the help of that the friction. When you are rubbing your palm on each other, means it creates a friction, it creates a energy with the help of that the friction. So with the help of the friction, it also generates a heat. However, every time generation of heat or generation of energy is not always useful. Sometimes it harmful also. In a machines also, various parts of machines get damaged due to heat generated. When the machines are continuously work on each other, right, when they are rub continuously on each other, they are also heat generated, which is not always useful. Okay, so this is also the one disadvantage of that the friction. Okay, up till now, what we learn about that the advantages of the friction. If there is no friction, then we are not able to move, we're not able to walk, we're not able to write, we not able to do anything smoothly. Okay, the things fall down. But if there is a greater friction, then it also harms. Okay, it harms the tires of the cars, trucks, bicycles. They also damage the moving part of the machines. They also wear out or the sole of your shoes. Okay, so they also generate the heat. So there are the advantages also and the disadvantages of the friction. So we'll up till that we'll learn about that, how we increase the friction, how we reduce the friction, what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages of the friction. Now in short, we see up till now in a whole chapter what we learn about that the friction is nothing but the opposition of the motion of an object, right? We learn about that the types of the friction, four types of friction: static, sliding, rolling, and the fluid. The static friction is the friction in which the object keep at its rest position, right? The sliding friction is the friction which opposes the relative sliding motion between the two surfaces. Rolling is the which helps to roll over the surface. Okay, it is also the one type of that the frictional force. The fluid friction is the frictional force exerted by the liquids and the gases. Also we called it as a drag force. We also learn about that the advantages, disadvantages, increasing, how we increase the friction and how we reducing the friction. So in a whole complete lesson we learn about that what is the exactly the friction, their types of friction, causes of friction, advantages, disadvantages, increasing friction and reducing friction. So here now our lesson is completed. So do it properly. I will send it the notes of this lesson on your group. So up till that, stay safe, stay